cool thing was because it was Cup Day, Melbourne United was able to get 10,000 plus people out of John Cain Arena last night to watch what ended up being a really dramatic, hilarious, but also filled with good pockets of basketball game between United and the Perth Wildcats. Perth Wildcats won in overtime. There was drama. There were big shots. There were big misses. There was a continuation of the officiating issue that everyone is having. But just generally, let's start on Perth, because the officiating will be a thing, and we'll delve into it because it's sort of the big story for this week.
Yep.
But Perth is interesting. They come out of this round 2-0. They beat Adelaide. There was a scare in the middle of that game, but they got that win at home. And then they come to Melbourne, a game that should have been a scheduled loss for them. Melbourne was healthy. First minute, 47 seconds in, Luke Travers falls down, hits his head on Ariel Hukporti's knee. So Travers is out with a concussion. Hukporti was sort of iffy for the rest of that game with that knee injury. Ian Clark hit 3 straight threes. He had a re-aggravation of that hamstring issue. So for the first time, they're full strength, and within the first few minutes, they were no longer. So they sort of jinxed themselves there. But I want to focus on Perth, because Perth is slowly, I think, figuring it out. And I wonder if you agree after this 2-0 week.
Well, I didn't have it as a scheduled loss for Perth either, to be honest, because I thought the long break for Melbourne and them being at full strength, I think, well, obviously they're not going to be at full strength for a little bit, depending on the injuries and the concussion brawl. I think the protocols for Melbourne, they have a different protocol for the league, by the way, because of the things that have happened, obviously, in recent history. So I don't think Luke Travers will play next week. It depending how, it might be his first concussion, or it might not be as bad.
I mean, the normal protocol is 7 days.
I think so.
7 or 8
exactly.
days. So if theirs is longer than that, then you can rule them out for next round.
Yeah,
already.
exactly. But I expected, once they were at full strength and they're due a loss, and just off that long of a break, they've been eager to play. That the hype around being healthy for the first time, I kind of expected that to be a loss anyway. And Perth coming in, but. Yeah, again, that change, and we called for change. Well, everyone called for change for Perth for something, and I thought it was going to be a starting lineup change firstly, before anything drastic happened. Let's change something in the starting lineup. I predicted Alex Sarr might come in. That was what I thought might happen, but the Jordan Usher thing, again, I think it was something that was inevitable. We saw him struggle in recent weeks, and it just rejuvenates everybody. It's that kind of change. Hiram Harris was a great piece to bring into the starting lineup. But Jordan Usher, again, it's weird to say a new lease on life, but he comes in with the pressure off him. He's like, okay, I get to see how the game's going. I'm an energy guy. I'm going to come in and spark things. And he didn't have his greatest game yesterday either.
He hit some big shots.
But he hit some big shots.
Yeah. He hit some big shots. He also had some hilarious moments.
Yes.
Of just, he's coaching him is just peaks and valleys. But what's interesting, and I'll touch on Usher, and then I'll touch on Hiram Harris and Jesse Wagstaff and those guys. There was a criticism that I heard out of the Wildcats camp, in that Jordan Usher was one of John Rillie's boys, one of his guys. So it's someone that he has known for a while. He brought him in, so it's like, all right, I'm vouching for you. And so the question was, can he bench him, or can he hold him accountable? And then when I thought a bit more deeply about it, I thought, okay, maybe John Rillie is one of the only coaches who can do that for him. Because Jordan Usher is a really unique character. And so sort of delving into that and trying to get into him might be a really tough thing to do, because he is a unique guy. And so I think John Rillie might be one of the only people in basketball who can do that. And he did, and he's come off the bench both games, given them a little spark. And I think it sort of gives him that leash to be a little bit more erratic on the court, because you're not relying on him to be so solid for you. Whereas John Rillie did what we all, I think, called for him to do, which was put a connector in this lineup. Throw a Hiram Harris in. Throw a Jesse Wagstaff in. And Hiram Harris got bulk minutes. Jesse Wagstaff played the 4 to end that game. And I think the key to this team, and someone who's been super unheralded, but I think had a great game last night, was Christian Doolittle.
Yep.
And that's someone who they can slide him down to the 3. They can play him at small ball 5 if they want to, but him at the 3 has really changed everything that they do, because then they can be a lot bigger. You can play Alex Sarr and Keanu Pinder together. I think we saw less than 20 possessions this season of Sarr, Pinder, Doolittle on the floor at the same time.
Because you just didn't expect it, as they were going to have to be 2 of them.
You just thought Doolittle was going to come in and he's the 4. But he's been playing the 3, and it bolsters them defensively. It bolsters the way they can rebound the ball. And it's really changed the way this team can play. And unfortunately, that means less minutes for someone like Corey Webster. And then that means just with everyone sliding up and down, less minutes for Ty Webster. And I think that's good for this team. I think they're way more defense focused with Christian Doolittle being so versatile and him playing the 3 and 4 and wherever JR wants to put him.
Back to the Jordan Usher thing on that as well, because I think it's weird to say, but it was somewhat of a curse to this team that he had 35 in the opening night.
Yeah.
Because he came in with the defensive hype, and he said it himself, that's the kind of player he was. That's why he was recruited. He comes in the first game of the season where Tasmania, no doubt that scout was, we're going after Bryce, we're going after Keanu, he's a new signing on this team. Yeah. So Jordan Usher, and he balled out, and he hit a lot of threes, and no doubt in the back of his mind, he's like, hang on, I can score a lot in this league. I'm an offensive weapon. And no matter what team you're on at any level, there is always going to be a hierarchy in terms of offensive threats. That's the way it is. You've got your star players.
Yep.
And I think for a little bit there was that confusion of, is that why we brought you in? And is the league going to be that easy to score in every single night? No, it's not.
Yeah.
And I think now him coming off the bench, he doesn't have to do that. But you're right. It's a great lineup change for that. I think a lot of people thought that some minutes would drastically decrease. You mentioned the Webster brothers, who I still think in certain games, you're going to have Corey Webster have 15 points off the bench and be a huge spark. Like, there's going to have that opportunity now. But defensively, the NBL, if you can't play D, you're not going to win.
Yeah, and you can't play.
Exactly.
And that's why when people ask the question a lot, why isn't Ben Henschel playing? I don't think he's ready defensively. Yeah. Or at least I don't think the coaching staff thinks that. And so that's why some of these guys aren't playing. It's the case with a lot of next stars around the league. Why aren't they playing? Because they're kids.
Yeah.
And generally, kids aren't great. And generally, kids can't defend. Right? There's a unique child who can play in this league right away, and it happened to be LaMelo, who was a top 3 pick, and he took some time. Yeah. Happened to be Giddey, who was a top 6 pick, and then it's like the Australians and Europeans who come here. So that's a unique part of it. Bryce didn't have his best game, and you sort of expect there's sort of a dip going from being guarded by DJ Vasiljevic to being guarded by Shea Ely. There is a dip that's going to happen, but he got to the line 14 times. So he was still able to produce.